Rahubat, welcome in when y'all get in. We are going to talk about the two mental irregular. I can't say the word. We're going to talk about the two mental illnesses, basically. Okay, two sides of a coin. This is what I really wanted to title this, but I didn't. I have a coin here, my little tarot coin. Yeah, that's what I call heads. That's what I call tails. It has two sides, right? But it's part of the same coin. Um, and to get a little bit funnier into it, so we have two brains. We have the right hemisphere of a brain and the left hemisphere of a brain. These are like two brains that we have that have been cut in half, and we have two of them. We have a half of each, okay? So we understand that one side controls like the emotions, the other side controls whatever the fuck, it doesn't matter. What we're talking about is the term narcissist, right? And how it is a blanket term for two things. Humans like to say that there's only one thing. That is impossible. If you know how to code computers, you probably already know this. If you don't, one is an imaginary thing. One is an integer. So like I think that's the correct term. But you can have 1% of one. You can have 1% of two. You can have 1% of three. You can have one of like 4%. Is that I mean of 4 of like of so it's like one of 1%, one of 2%, one of 3%, all the way up to 99. You can have one of 99% as well, right? One isn't a thing. Get rid of that. That's a dumb ideology that people have made. One is not a thing. One is imaginary. One is nothing. Okay, but we have two illnesses. And we're going to talk a little bit about colors and the spectrum real quick, just to recap so you can get a better grip, a better grasp of what we're about to talk about. So understand that we exist in a spectrum, which is why there's not really a one. We exist in a spectrum. And a spectrum is like an array of colors. You have black, gray, black, brown, green, red, blue, purple, whatever the fuck, right? You have all the colors. Those colors are split up into their own spectrum. So you have the spectrum of red, the spectrum of yellow, the spectrum of orange. So that's why you have red, and then ruby, and then maroon. And it's spectrums. It's a whole spectrum of hues and tints using other colors, right? This is where the human mind gets a little confused, and that's why we use blanket terms, because we don't like thinking that deep. We do like thinking that deep, actually, just no one wants to, okay? Or we're too busy being poisoned to really think that way, right? But every color has its hues and tints. Its other two things. The coin being the color, the two sides being the hues and the tints, respectively. Hues, lighter, tints, darker, right? So the two mental illnesses that exist are a psychopath and a sociopath. Those are the two main things. So when you hear sociopath, don't actually think of this color. We're just using it as an example. We'll use the colors red and blue, for example, because we're very familiar with the colors of red and blue. Red, you can associate red with psychopath and blue with sociopath. Okay, red is attached to the mental or the physical, and a sociopath, blue, is associated with the emotional or the feminine spiritual side, right? So for a psychopath, it's a lack of mental control, right? Anything that is to the furthest extreme to the least extreme of a psychopath has some form of a lack of mental control, okay? ADHD and ADD is a form of a lack of mental control. You cannot control your mental or your senses, therefore you're all over the place. That is under the bridge, under the spectrum of being a psychopath. You don't have to say that you're a psychopath when you're ADHD, but that is what a psychopath is a lack of mental control. ADHD and ADD come from a lack of being able to grasp attention due to what's happening on the physical. It's that what's happening, right? So that's a lack of mental control. Sociopaths have a lack of emotional control. Funnily enough, I was talking with my guides about this, and they said autism is a form of being a sociopath due to the whole thing. And autism itself is a spectrum within itself, and we'll talk about that probably never. Because I'm not a licensed doctor to talk about things like that, and we were just going off of what we need to talk about right now. Anyway, think of it like that. They both relate to the term bipolar. which bipolar is not an issue. Everyone on this earth is bipolar. You do not have to be diagnosed to be bipolar. You are bipolar by nature. And if you don't want to agree with that, I mean, that's on you. But I'll explain how. There's two poles on Earth, the North Pole, the South Pole, right? The polarities of Earth. You get too far up and it's fucking hot. You get too far down and it's cold. You know, whatever. However it is going on right now. There's two poles of man, the right and the left, right? Those are temples, the North and the South, right? You have two poles. You have two for everything on the human body. You can split yourself down the middle. And you have two. You have exact. You know, you have an organ on this side. You got an organ on that side. They might not be the same, but they have that correlation, right? Being bipolar is not an issue. If you are not bipolar and you are leaning on one or the other, that's an issue. Because then what's happening is you're rejecting a part of yourself and you're not allowing that other part of yourself to expose itself. So we are both psychopaths and sociopaths at the same time due to this. Because we all have times where we lack emotional control and times where we lack mental control. Those two things are ailments or illnesses because we should not have to struggle with choosing balance. We shouldn't have to jump from one side to the other so much, right? That's a mental irregularity. I can't fucking pronounce that word today. Regardless, it doesn't matter. Both of these things coincide. Both of those things are things that we deal with day to day, either to greater or lesser degrees. Okay? A lack of mental control is procrastination and hyperfixation because you either don't want to do it because you think that you feel some way about it, or you're so caught on doing it because you think that you feel that it brings you some sort of joy. Now, a lack of emotional control is depression and mania because those are the feelings, the emotions. You feel the feeling of depression. You feel the energy of mania, right? Now, they both coincide. You cannot have one without the other. They will both affect these two brains, right? There's really three brains that we have. The gut is one brain, the heart is another, and then we have one half of two different brains that create one full brain, which is what's up in here in your noggin, okay? The lack of mental control is the five senses. When you cannot control all your senses, that is because of a lack of mental control. That is because you allow yourself to get lost in your mind, or you allow things on the 3D, the mental, the man, to distract you. A lack of focus on yourself is a lack of emotional control, or a lack of focus, a lack of feeling, a lack of being able to express who you are is a lack of emotional control. Because being able to express yourself, whether in a healthy or non-way, is a form of that emotional control. The emotional, the feelings, the emotional is the feminine, the physical, the mental is the masculine. The feminine is passive, the masculine is active, excuse me. So when you are in the feminine energy of a lack of emotional control, you end up becoming passive. You tend to not act on things. You choose to feel them, overfeel them, which causes you a reluctance to do anything. Or on the extreme of it, you would then use your emotions to fuel you for that action, regardless of the motive behind, right? Same thing goes for the mental side, like a mental control, the 3D and everything of that nature. You have action. So you end up thinking and overthinking that you have to do something that makes you either not do it or extremely do it, right? Masculine, the mental side is too much control, and the feeling side, the feminine, is a lack of control. Okay? To fix these issues, you must increase your attention to the opposite factor. So if you're too deep in your feelings, you have to focus on the physical, the mind. Why am I in my feelings so that I can escape this? You know, same thing for the mental, the 3D side of things. If you're overstimulated by the 3D, focus on yourself. Dive into who you are so that you don't have to be worrying about what's going on the outside, right? Both of these issues are giving medicines to solve this, right? Those medicines are made of chemicals and affect our pH balance. We all have a pH balance as we are acidic beings. We have a lot more acid in us than anything, so we're acidic beings, right? And our pH levels affect our mood, right? Whatever medicine solves one will cause the other one to ramp up. So that's why you're given multiple medicines for different things. Like, oh, you're depressed, so they give you a medicine to help you not be depressed, but as well as another one to increase your focus. Have you noticed that? They take one that deteriorates the feeling so that you become more mental, but then it wants you to also dim down the mental so that's not overreactive. Doctors know this, that's why they double med, triple med you up with a bunch of random shit that you don't even think you need to take because they're messing literally with your pH levels and who you are as a chemical makeup. Now, this video is not going to be that long because it's just going to be a brief run through. Because this is just something that needs to be talked about. You know, it doesn't need an extremely long video. It just needs something that you need to meditate and research on, just giving you the tips and hints, right? So, both of these issues are pH levels, right? The the stomach leads to mental and emotional issues, right? Because that's your main brain. You think your gut is your whole thing. You have a whole biome of bacteria and mucus in your stomach that regulates a lot of your emotions, right? And a lot of how you think, a lot of how you feel, right? So, I was looking this up to try and get it. To what I could find, the proper emotional pH level is 6.5 to 7.5, and the appropriate mental level is 7.2. All right? Now, if you are overthinking, if you have these mental problems, you're having too much meat in your life. You need to stop eating so much meat. You shouldn't be eating meat anyway. Well, good. That's something that y'all should just know, right? But if your emotions are running too high, you have too much stomach acid, okay? Your acidic levels are way too high, right? Both of these can be cured by digestive care and fasting, just getting a balanced diet. Do not use the food pyramid when doing this stuff. Do not use the food pyramid. The food pyramid's not going to help you regulate or anything with this bullshit. It is controlled by the FDA. It's not good for you. They're doing that to keep you more locked down than ever. Okay, if you are having emotional issues, get ginger in your system, pumpkin, brown rice, sweet potatoes, oats, papaya, millet. You can get cabbage and carrots and also beans. All right. Now, some of these cross reference with the stomach. Like you can also eat beans for the stomach. I mean, for the mental problems, and that will help you out too. It cross relates a lot. You'll see that. So when you are having these mental problems, or you're unable to focus on things and keep your mind straight, you can eat dark chocolate, leafy greens, blueberries, eggs, walnuts, or take omega-3. All right. To more know of this stuff, to more about these things, talk to a herbalist, join herbalist groups, join like fasting groups. It's we have the internet. There's no excuse for us not to know these things. So if you want to know more, as I'm just diving, I mean, I've been in this for a minute, but not on this level. I'm learning about this level currently right now from just looking at people and asking questions in groups and stuff. I implore you to do the same. Stop being scared of informing yourself. Don't be afraid to join groups. Don't be afraid to be online and ask questions. Like that's why we're here to learn, and there's no such thing as a stupid question. So go to these groups and really start learning things and start getting more of this information. Dr. Sebi, watching Dr. Sebi and understanding his teachings and all these things are going to really help you. But and at the end of the day, if you are having any sort of mental problem where you're unable to control the mental realm, you have a low pH balance. Your pH level is too low and you need to get the pH level up. If you're having an emotional issue, your pH level is way too high. It's too acidic, right? Don't use chemicals to regulate this stuff. Chemicals are not good because we all have different ways that we react to these chemicals. The best way to take these things is to use natural, because those chemicals are made from natural ingredients, but they're tampered with and all sorts of shit, and our bodies will respond differently to them. It's easier to use natural ingredients, to use nature to heal these things, because especially if they're not tampered, like non-GMO bullshit, non-spray, like growing your own things, or look, reading the tags and making sure of that, or ordering stuff online, however you're doing it. But it's important to use natural ingredients because they will heal you. It's in scriptures, it's in the Bible to you. If it's not coming from the ground, don't eat. If it's walking on land, leave it the fuck alone. If it's growing from the ground, take it. That's why you see, like, it's not eating meat. Not eating meat's not like a good thing. We're not meant to like digest meat. We lost that whole organ that like made us do that, and some of us don't even have it. You know what I mean? And it's like that's why fish comes in, like omega fatties and like oily things of that nature. They help these sort of issues. So really go and learn about the herbs and stuff. But this is just a short little video. I wanted to make this one for a while to talk about the two mental illnesses, just a little bit of facts and stuff, but there's only two. It's a lack of emotional balance or a lack of mental balance. Those are the only two, and they coexist. And it's just a spectrum where one side's over here, one side's over there, and they both take from each other till they meet in the middle. And when they meet in the middle, and even in the middle, the blanket term is in the middle, and it's called narcissism, because regardless of which one they are, they're going to be called narcissists, because the base, the middle of it, is narcissism. Too much acid makes you a sociopath. Lack of an acid makes you a psychopath, basically, if you want to talk about it that way. But it's the term narcissist that doesn't help anything, because anyone and anything can be considered a narcissist, including empath, because empathy can be seen as narcissism to a degree, because it's all blanket terms that relate to a spectrum of different terms and different meanings on the two realms that we exist on the mental and on the emotional, we'll call it. Just to make sense, we can't really call it, we can call it feeling, but everyone's so used to calling it emotional. But it's the mental and the feeling realm, or the emotional realm if you want. The emotional realm is really in between, because the mental controls the feelings and then turns into an emotion. But that's what's going on. That's these mental illnesses. That's what it's spread down. Basically, if you have been diagnosed with bipolar, and you just have a hard time with your emotions, it's because you have a high pH level. Stop eating so many acidic foods, dial back. And if you have a hard time with mental things like staying focused, you have a low pH balance, start getting that acid level up. Okay, it's really that simple. There's nothing more to it. Big Pharma doesn't want you to know that. They want everyone to think that bipolar is fucking scary. I was diagnosed with bipolar type 3, whatever the fuck that is, and it had nothing to do with anything except for my stomach, because apparently, well, not really apparently, but really, my gallbladder was ruptured, and it was leaking stomach acid all over my body. So of course I had some emotional issues, because my acidic levels were through the fucking roof. So it wasn't a mental illness, it was a body dysfunction. And that's all illnesses come from, is just a body dysfunction. So take care of yourself. Take care of your gut. Your gut is its own biosphere. It has its own thing going on. It has a whole bacteria field, it has its own mucus layers, it has its own it's its own biome. It's its own biome. You have to take care of it differently than this and this. And your gut, it determines everything. If you're bloated in your gut, you don't feel good, right? You then get these bad thoughts, you feel clouded, you fall asleep, you literally get knocked out because of some of the chemicals that you put in your stomach. That it's the thing. So beware of that. Do your studying on this if it interests you. Regardless, go get herbalist groups, go watch Dr. Sebi videos, start figuring these things out for yourself. The information's out there, so I'm not going to be talking too much on it, but I needed this to get out. My guides and I've been talking about it for a while. But those are the only two mental issues on earth, is either being a psychopath or a sociopath. Okay? So I hope this helped you. I love you all so much. I know, short video, didn't have to be long. Okay, I got all the points out that I needed, straightforward, no confusions. If you have any questions, feel free to email me and I'll do my best to answer them. But regardless, I love you all so much. Everything's in the description. Y'all already know the drill, but I love you, each and every one of y'all so much, to the moon and back, tenfold and forever, and I will see you later.